Hey, careful, man. There's a beverage here. Welcome to You Guys Podcast. I'm Rob, that's Liam, and this week we watched the 1998 Coen brothers classic crime comedy, The Big Lebowski. The film that asks, what if nothing happens on screen, but a lot of talking, will people like it? I'm here to tell you that yes, they will. We followed a dude, a man that through a case of mistaken identity is drawn into a web of intrigue, kidnapping, and feet. So much feet. I mean, if this film would make you think it was directed by Tarantino. Now, I know that makes it sound like a lot happens in this film, but it really doesn't. It's just a bunch of men yelling at each other over the sound of bowling balls crashing into pins. A film that shouldn't work, and I should be extremely bored of. I'm looking at you, Byrne, after reading. But through its fantastic core cast and cinematography, yes, Liam, I said the word, this film
Wowzers.
just works. The dude is cool and laid back. Walter is a nut job that needs to be cut loose. Poor Donnie just needs to stop talking. And while a film has never been made bad with the inclusion of Sam Elliott, that guy could deliver my eulogy and people will smile. Now, I have a lot more to say about this film, and hopefully I'll get my chance. But I think now Liam is chomping at the bit to tell us all about this film.
I mean, yeah, I'm a big fan. I am a big fan. I go as far as to say like it's one of my favorite films, and a big part of that is it just hit at the right time. I don't think
It's definitely top 10. It is definitely top 10, I think.
it is a top 10 movie for me,
Yeah.
and I think you know watching this when you're like 18, 19, going to university and stuff, like it just felt like a big deal. It was like one of those first like big DVD movies. And let's be clear, it was just one of those like cool to watch movies. Now you can take it too far. It was also one of my first experiences of douchebags at cinemas. I was at like, and I know this all immediately makes me sound douchey. I was in a film class in university. And we watched, of course, and we were watching The Big Lebowski. And I had my first example of, like people laughing too hard to just to show everyone else in the cinema
To show they
that
get it.
they get it. And I was just like, dude,
Yeah.
I know, like, don't get me wrong, this is a funny movie. But I would say it's got maybe two genuinely laugh out loud moments. The rest of the film, it is like I always hear it's described as like hilarious. It's funny and it's always amusing. It's always entertaining. It's not always hilarious because it's not that kind of film. I would say that the two broadly funny moments. This is what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass, and John Goodman fucks up the car. That's genuinely funny. And the ashes sequence at the end when he throws Donnie's ashes into his face. That is just genuinely and broadly comedic.
It's all because of the dude's delivery. And I say delivery. When he's getting ashes chucked in his face, he's not doing anything except just like dealing with it. But the look on his face, the fact that Donnie is flying into his face, it is funny. What's interesting?
Sorry, go for it.
Sorry, what's interesting is I didn't watch this film in the cinema. I didn't watch this film. Totally passed me by. The first watching of this film, it kind of washed over me. It kind of just like I didn't really totally understand it. But then subsequent watches, you start to pick up on the nuances. You start to pick up on the things that are happening, the things that are going, and it's so good. Now, I've already said it on record. I'm not a huge fan of the Coen brothers. A couple of their films I like, but this one, it's like they broke the mold with this film. This film is, and again, as I said in my intro, shouldn't work. It shouldn't work. Like it's just a load of dudes screaming and not like talking and anything. And for me, it shouldn't work because I'm not the kind of. This is not the kind of film that a guy like me should be enjoying.
I can totally understand. Put it this way, I mean, my wife and I think I mentioned this before, we have pretty similar tastes in movies, but she doesn't get on with the Coens, and she particularly hates this film. And it's one of those films. I just feel like it's either it clicks for you and it's one of your favorite films, or you just watch it and be like, I don't get it. But for me, it was like right from the opening scene. And, like this movie came out, it coincided with me really starting to get into movies. Like I'd watch movies my whole life, but like taking an interest in them. And I remember this was like one of the first reviews I read in Empire magazine back in 1998 when I started like subscribing to the magazine. And it was like, oh, this 5-star movie. I'm like, Jeff Bridges, John Good, and like even John Goodman being in it kind of felt like a big deal. Because I still knew him from Roseanne. He'd been like a leading man for a little bit, but it hadn't really worked out. And it felt like he kind of drifted off into the background slightly. And suddenly he's back. And, this movie with this bizarre poster. I remember the poster which we used to have in the UK was with them holding the toe. And I was like, what the fuck is this movie even about? And it all starts with that intro which perfectly sums up the intangible nature of this movie's brilliance. So you get Sam Elliott as the stranger, and even when he was shooting this film, he kept going to the Coen brothers. It's like, what am I doing in this movie? Who am I? And they were just like, don't worry about it. He goes, this doesn't make any sense. And they just kept telling him. They were just like, don't worry about it. It'll work. And just like you said in the intro, it just works. And they couldn't even explain it to Sam Elliott why it was going to work. They're just like, just trust us, it'll work. And it just does. And like straight away, you've got this character in the stranger, and you're like, well, who is the stranger? Like, he's asking, for a good sarsaparilla, although that's actually when he kind of shows up halfway through the movie.
Yeah.
But does he represent the dude's conscience? I've heard some people say, like, oh, he's an imaginary character because he's the only one who sees him. I don't buy into that because he does order a drink.
Yeah, he speaks to the bartender.
I've heard some people suggest that he might be God, but there's no sense that he's omnipotent because he's kind of going on the journey with us. So I took it with the idea that he's almost like the angel on the dude's shoulder. Like the idea that Donnie should have been the angel on the dude's shoulder in kind of contrast to Walter clearly being the devil on his other shoulder, but he's too meek. So then you've got this kind of angel watching over the dude who just kind of steps in, but it gives the movie this almost, and I'd never really noticed it before, this almost like Lynchian introduction to the film, where it's almost like kind of like off kilter. It's lacking that sense of like ominous dread which runs through. So the movie it made me think of bizarrely was like Blue Velvet. But like you watch that and you're having this introduction to like this all Americana scene, but it's just imbued with this sense of overbearing dread. It's that, but without the dread. So it's kind of like it puts you on ease because you're like, well, this is strange and I don't get this character, but it's all so welcoming. And that's one of the things about this movie. For all the bizarre characters, for all the bizarre plot points, and the plot very much is there, it's a very welcoming and it's a warm hug of a movie in many respects.
I love that, and this is coming from me. I love the fact people are looking too deep into it. I say this is coming from me because I have something I looked too deep into for this film, but it wasn't The Stranger.
It invites that kind of critique, I think, this film.
The Stranger, for me, he's just a perennial narrator. He's just like, they needed to, I think you look, not you personally, you as in the proverbial, you're looking too deep into that character. For a film that is just odd all over, the fucking nihilists, the weird dream sequence with Julianne Moore, I don't think The Stranger has as much of an impact as to why people call him God conscious, things like that. I think he's just a dude who sat at the bar who just likes telling a story. That's the way I saw him.
Maybe there could be that as well. It's kind of like the extreme version of this is like The Shining, that we've kind of been trained to read into every last little scene, sequence, decision made by Stanley Kubrick.
Yeah.
And I'm not sure if you've seen the documentary on The Shining, but eventually you get to some things and you're just like, I think that just might be a fucking can. I don't think that's a big deal, but somebody wants to find something.
Go back to what you said about John Goodman. He had a bit of a run like up to this, and then because he was a leading man before. I know in '97 he did The Borrowers. He released 3 films in 1998 alone. So The Lebowski was one of them.
Yeah.
Can you name the other 2? Because my God, what a year! And I'm not saying that as a good thing.
98. See, it's weird because I wrote down a few films and they were off the top of my head. And I was thinking about the whole John Goodman as a leading man thing before he became the character actor that I love. And the movies that they weren't 98, but I thought of like that run from like The Flintstones, The Babe, King Ralph, Matinee, Arachnophobia, a film we've covered on the podcast. And I was just like, that's why when I think of this film, I'm like, what else did he do around this time? And it was around then, in the same way that all of a sudden you start associating Bill Murray with Paul Wes Anderson. It's like all of a sudden I just associate John Goodman with showing up in fucking Coen Brothers films. And I know he'd already shown up in Coen Brothers films, like going back to, Raising Arizona and the such. But this is when I really, really feel like, in my mind at least, he cemented that relationship. So that's a long way of beating around the bush and saying, no, I don't know.
Right. So he released 3, like I said, so the Big Lebowski's in the middle of the 3 that were released. The first one of '98, and I think it's a very underrated film, is Fallen. I don't know if you remember Fallen.
Yeah, Fallen.
With Denzel Washington. The weird possessed film. Really good film, really dark. I enjoy that film. But then he kind of ended 1998. And the decisions that were made. Blues Brothers 2000.
I mean, that's a shocker. That's one of the most like famously terrible sequels of
Yeah.
all time. You know, you consider how beloved the original is, and I say beloved. It feels like it's beloved for people like 45 years and older, because I
I
feel
love
like
him. I love Blues Brothers.
I see.
Yeah.
I like the Blues Brothers, but I feel like I just missed the boat on it. I'm just that
Okay.
little bit too young. Like, don't get me
I
wrong, you know, if it'd been shown in my household a lot, maybe so. But already when I was younger, because it was like the late set, or was it 1980 on the button? It might be
it
1980 on the
was
button.
yeah. So I think it was 1980 on the button, but also for Americans it's a bit different because it's
Mhm.
45 and over because it's super linked. It's intrinsically linked
Oh yeah,
to SNL.
yeah, yeah,
It was an
100%.
SNL skit, like the
Mhm.
Blues Brothers were SNL and everything. So I imagine, so it's not as
And
big over here, but I still think it's
John
great.
Belushi was so fucking famous in the States. He was
Yeah,
so like John Belushi feels like, and again, it's one of those things because he passed away, you know, when I was still pretty young. He felt like this kind of person I heard about, and I know because of, like you say, SNL was at its peak, and he was very much the star of the show. He was this absolute like juggernaut over there, but it never felt like it kind of trickled over. Like he never felt like a big deal to me. Like growing up,
no,
like
exactly,
when I
spot
thought
on.
of John Belushi, I actually immediately thought of his brother James Belushi taking on the role in like Red Heat and everything like that. He was the person I knew. You know, he was never as famous
For
as his
me too.
brother, but he was who I knew
James
more.
Belushi seems to be more famous for us over here. I want to say
I
because
think
he
so.
had
Yeah,
more
just because of the
film
movies.
with like I know you're not a big fan of it, like with Curly Sue. But then I always remember a film as well, Mr. Destiny. I don't know if you ever remember
Oh
Mr.
yeah, yeah,
Destiny,
yeah.
when Michael Caine played a genie or an angel. Or again, that's a
Mm-hmm.
film you're looking too deep into if you want to understand what's going on. But yeah, I'm the same as you. I couldn't name aside from Animal House and Blues Brothers.
They're the
I got
two.
to
Yeah,
look.
yeah.
Yeah, and to be fair,
And
yeah, looking at
the thing
his
is, he didn't have an amazing movie career. He made some pretty dodgy choices, and those two are the films like I associate him with. And I never had that attachment to either. I had a bigger attachment to the Blues Brothers, but again, I feel like I went back and it already felt quite old when I was younger. And I've
yeah.
gone back to it as an adult, and I can appreciate the movie. Like it's utterly unique. If you haven't seen the Blues Brothers, it is legitimately fucking bananas, that film. But do not watch the sequel to bring it back to the original point. Blues Brothers 2000 was a rough movie.
Yeah, and that's as much as I love John Goodman as an actor. Bless him,
Mhm.
he's no John Belushi for that. Like to
Well,
replace
it's
John Belushi with
completely
John.
different.
Yeah, no, that's
He's
what I mean. But
he doesn't have the
it's
comedy chops. I mean, I love John Goodman and some of his cameos in Coen Brothers films. Some of my favorites of all time, and this might be the pick of the bunch. I like him as Walter in a movie where, you know, the dude is one of my favorite cinematic characters of all time, and he might not even be my favorite character in this film. That's how fucking good John Goodman is as Walter. But you can make the case for so many of them. Like
yeah,
how many? Sorry, I was looking through the list of stars in this film. So I was like, outside of the top four, so we can make an argument about who's your favorite. Is it Walter, Donnie, the dude, and I'd throw Jesus maybe into that top four. But outside of that, you've got Brandt, played by Philip Seymour Hoffman. I mean,
yeah.
he actually really pushes it when you go back and watch this film. Like, there's a few parts where physically, some of the physical comedy, he is pushing it to the edge. When he like presents the dude to the Big Lebowski and he stands next to him, he does all this kind of like odd, subtle physical comedy, which
It's,
almost feels out of place in this film.
it's the laugh when Bunny says, "I'll suck your
So
cock for
good.
$1,000." When he does that weird, nervous smile laugh, but he kind of sucks his face back into
Oh yeah,
himself,
it's so
and
awkward.
like everything just kind of yeah, it's so awkward. Like you said,
But
that's physical comedy. That's great.
yeah. I mean, he's fantastic. David Huddleston as the Big Lebowski is legitimately brilliant in this film. Sam Elliott, who we've already mentioned, he's in it briefly, but if you want a cowboy, you get Sam Elliott. And my God,
Yeah.
if you're looking for best cinematic mustache, look no further. Peter Stormare, we fucks you up. We take some money.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, Jesus Christ, we haven't got around to the fact that this is perhaps the most quotable movie of all time. And David Hewlett, even as Knox Harrington, he only comes in briefly with alongside Julianne Moore. And I don't know what it is about his character, but that is the brilliance of the Coen brothers, is that they make every single character memorable. And you know, we've
Yeah.
mentioned it in like that's why I would love to see the Coens do a traditional horror film. How many times have we said with a horror film, the ones that really stand out because the characters are memorable. So when they die, it matters. Bring the Coen brothers, every character, like they could be on screen for 2 minutes, you will remember them.
I
And
will. Sorry.
sorry,
No,
go for it.
continue. Sorry.
Oh no, I was just going to say, like, Coen Brothers are one of the few directors who will not only take character actors and push them to their limits, they will take bona fide superstars and they will also turn them into character actors.
Yeah.
Like he turned fucking George Clooney and Brad Pitt at the peak of their powers. He put them in a film, and I know you don't like Burn After Reading. Burn After Reading is probably my least favorite Coen's film. I mean, okay, Oh Brother, Oh Brother, Where Art Thou is one of my favorites. That's a different example. He takes these leading men and turns them into character actors. The only one I would argue that that they were unable to turn into a character actor on screen is Nicolas Cage. You just can't rein him in. Like his character is so weird in Raising Arizona, but even in that, you can't help but see the superstar that he is. And I know he's not everyone's cup of tea, but he is just almost the ultimate screen presence in some respects. But yeah, they've taken a film, they've taken character actors, they've taken movie stars and turned them into character actors so that everybody is memorable.
I'm going to give some honorable mentions to a couple you didn't mention. So Ben Gazzara, Jackie Treehorn, who we know him as, was it Walter
Brilliant.
from, what was it? Brad Wesley from Roadhouse.
He's another one where he tiptoes like the stranger, but he's the other end of the spectrum where he's a little bit Lynchian. Like with his intro is bizarre, and he's got like he's maybe the only character in the movie who has like a genuine threat about them. Like he has that kind of like cool calm, but you're just like, oh, he could do something horrendous to you though, you know? So
the other one I got to mention is one of the thugs, one of the Treehorn thugs, the one who doesn't piss on the rug, the other one, who is played by Mark Pellegrino, who very young in this, 1998, but he famously now played Lucifer in Supernatural for like all of 20 seasons. Yeah,
that's Mark Pellegrino. Where's the money, Lebowski? Where's the money, shithead?
Yeah.
Oh, so again, right from the off, you're getting quotable lines.
He leads me. I got a question for you after this, but he leads me to one of the questions. This is not the one I want to ask you, but the whole film pretty much starts from mistaken identity and because the dude's upset about the rug. Now, I argue that the rug shouldn't be the upsetting thing. It should be the now dangerous broken tiles in his bathroom after Mark Pellegrino dropped the bowling ball on it. So, dude clearly wears...
You're not a golfer.
Dude barely wears shoes. And he's going to be walking to take a piss in the middle of the night with shards of tile now.
100%. I think this is one of those grown-up arguments alongside. This is like the smaller scale version of our Home Alone discussion. When when you watch it as a kid, you're like, oh, they stole all the Christmas presents. It's like, I can't believe they stole their stuff on Christmas Eve. You watch it as an adult, you like, he flooded the fucking house.
Yeah.
Like, that's the thing that kills you. And I totally agree in this. It's like, yeah, sure, he steals the rug, and it is a lovely rug. I would say it's cinema's most famous rug. I would say, in part because of this film, that style of rug has almost become the de facto rug in the modern Western world. But 100%, the tiles is a much bigger problem.
The other question that I wanted to ask is, when I was thinking about after I chose this film, I said, "Oh, he's going to be so upset I chose this film because he doesn't get to do the quote at the beginning."
Oh, and then I've got some insight.
As I'm thinking, and my question was, which Jesus quote were you going to do? Because I guarantee, if you were going to do a Jesus quote, if it was you,
I've got it. I've got it written down because honestly, I'm so into this film that I forgot you chose it. I was just convinced. I was just like, I wrote down an intro and I wrote down a quote and I was like, dude, this isn't your film. This is fucking Rob's film. So the obvious one is, are you ready to be fucked, man? Yeah. I see you rolled your way into the semis. Dios mío, man. Liam and me, we're gonna fuck you up. Yeah, well, that's just like your opinion, man. Let me tell you something, pendejo. You put any of that crazy shit with us, you flash a piece out on the lanes, I take it away from you and stick it up your ass and pull the trigger until it goes click. Jesus, you said it, man. Nobody fucks with a Jesus. And then you've got to end it, of course, with 8-year-olds, dude.
I just love it, right? He goes, until it goes click. I don't even know what that means.
I mean, the thing is, that introduction to Jesus is so good that you forget that he's a pedophile. It's absolutely, if you want to know just how bizarre and strange and how successful this film is
he a pedophile? Because you don't really...
They call him a pederast.
Yeah, but I'm led to believe you shouldn't believe anything Walter says.
Yes,
Walter's going on about that dog being a bloody show dog.
But the problem is, I mean, maybe in that kind of pseudo sequel spin off, maybe they tell you something to the contrary. But as far as this movie is concerned, yes, we don't get unequivocal proof, and it is coming from an unreliable narrator in Walter. But we are told that this character is a paedophile on numerous occasions, and yet he is he gets one of the greatest character intros. Like, I would argue that Jesus's intro in this film is up there with Humphrey Bogart in Casablanca, Connery in Bond, Omar Sharif in Lawrence of Arabia, and Jesus, the pederast, in fucking The Big Lebowski. It's insane. Like, can you think of any other character where the character on screen is established and, like I said, we won't say confirmed, but you're told that he's a pedophile and people wear T-shirts with his fucking face on it. Like, what the fuck? It's insane.
I mean, but the one thing that threw me off was not the fact any of that. It was the fact that seeing his teammates, his friends. You look at Jesus, and then you look at
Liam, yeah,
yes.
Liam, and that's
like Liam. Jesus Christ,
great, because there aren't many Liams on screen. Like, for the longest time, like, that was the Liam, was just fucking Liam from The Big Lebowski. And it's weird that might change now, because bizarrely, Liam in the last like 4 or 5 years has legitimately become the most popular name in America. It's like it's always like number 1 or number 2 in like the baby names in America. But growing up, it was like there weren't many Liams, certainly outside of Ireland. But yeah,
what
like
famous Liams are there at the moment then?
Well, that's the thing. They're all babies. Well, is Liam from One Direction, maybe, or something like that? I don't know. From one of the boy bands, Liam Neeson, all that jazz, and obviously, well, Liam Gallagher would be one of the most famous ones. But
isn't it Hemsworth Liam as well?
Yeah, Liam Hemsworth as well. Yeah. But when I was younger, it was just fucking Liam from The Big Lebowski. I was like, really? This is the best fucking Liam? Like, I would argue, other than his name, he's one of the few characters, because they go out of their way to show Liam. Like, he's always with Jesus. He's one of the only characters in the film who wasn't memorable.
And also, he wasn't even memorable to the people crediting him, because he doesn't even get credited as Liam. He's just Quintana's partner.
Fantastic.
So you don't even get a fucking name in the credits, dude.
I'll tell you what, though, it has lived on to a certain extent. So, obviously, The Big Lebowski has become one of like the ultimate cult movies of the 90s.
Yeah.
And I remember, I'm not sure if you went through the same White Russian phase. This, again, linked into university. Being douchebags, we all went through this phase of like, we're going to drink White Russians.
I didn't understand putting milk with alcohol, so I've never gone. I've had White Russians. I've had White Russians now. Yeah. But not when I was in my...
We weren't drinking it all the time. We weren't complete douchebags. We just watched the film and we're just like, none of us had White Russian. So we just looked up, again, tricking you to think, because none of us had the internet back then. But we looked up the recipe, we went down to shops, we made White Russians, and we're like, oh, yeah, these are pretty decent. But like you said, milk is not the kind of drink I want to be kind of rolling in university drinking levels where you're like, oh, I'll have a White Russian start the night, and then you throw 8 pints on top, and then, well, you see what happens next. But there's like a Big Lebowski bar in Reykjavik in Iceland. And I went there and I was like, oh, I've got to go there and have a White Russian. It's very on the nose. But loads of places actually have Lebowski bars. But there was one in Edinburgh where I live, and it was called Lebowski's. And I went in and it was just called Lebowski's for the most part. There's nothing else. But the menu had burgers and stuff named after the characters. And one of the characters, there was a Liam burger. And I just remember mainly like when I went up and ordered my food.
Liam burger.
I was just like, all right. Don't you think you guys should maybe have some more like Lebowski stuff in the bar? He goes, what do you mean? I was like, The Big Lebowski, like the movie. And he was just like adamant that the bar was just called Lebowski. And I was like, but dude, like the menu is named that. And he was just being a complete bellend about it. I was just like, all right, dude, I don't give a fuck, just to be clear. But you just took a bizarre umbrage with the idea that this bar was clearly named after the character. But hey ho.
I forgot. Speaking of the White Russians in the mill, I completely forgot the intro of him walking. Like, you've got Sam Elliott's smooth as fucking glass voice, just talking to you. And I fucking know, a bit of a man crush on Sam Elliott, apparently.
Dude, I think any man worth his salt has a bit of a man crush on Sam Elliott.
So he's talking, and you see the dude walking through the dairy aisle. Mm-hmm. He picks 2 of the same milks, puts one back, drinks the other one. Which is all fine. I don't condone drinking the milk until you've paid for it. But then paying by check. The only thing I do
is French sticks. I'll eat a bit of the bread if I buy those. That's the only thing.
Paying by check. Mm-hmm. But not just paying by check. Paying by check for 60 odd cents is one of the most baller and fucking awful moves I've ever seen. But I was thinking, that's probably the equivalent of not carrying cash back then. Don't carry cash, I'll write you a check. Now we just pay contactless.
Yeah, and plus it's a weird one, this film, because obviously they wanted to base it around like, a part of the narrative is certainly in regards to Walter and stuff, and you do get like references to Saddam Hussein. We're setting this in the early
You
90s
get
when
references to Saddam Hussein. You get fucking Saddam Hussein himself giving him.
of course. But it's quite bizarre that a movie released in 1998, which would have been written in 1997, was in some respects a critique of an era which had literally just passed. It's kind of like making a movie now and setting it in like 2019. It's quite a
Yeah.
bizarre one, but I love that opening sequence. I think it immediately establishes the dude, and obviously, we mentioned Jeff Bridges, like, we mentioned the fact that this is a movie full of character actors, and the Coen brothers turning stars into character actors, and you do get that with the dude and Jeff Bridges, but that star kind of aura that he has still shines through. And he is unequivocally like the big. I was trying to get my head around how big a star Jeff Bridges actually is. And it's weird because he's had these kind of peaks and troughs throughout his career. So he had that kind of run with like Starman and Tron when he was, a leading man. And then there was like that mid-90s thing around now when he did like Arlington Road. Remember the Vanishing remake? Where they
Fuck
fucked
me,
the
did they
ending?
do the Vanishing remake?
Yeah, he was playing like the bad guy in the Vanishing remake. I'm sure.
Oh, so I thought you said the Coens. Sorry,
No,
when he
no, it's with
no,
Jeff
where he
Bridges.
kidnapped Sandra Bullock.
Yeah, but like
Yeah.
it doesn't end like the original Dutch movie where that one's
No,
got
no,
like
they find her, I think, but
yeah, yeah, yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
the original Dutch movie, she is just buried in the car.
Yeah, the last
Yeah.
shot is just him buried underground. Like, so that is already confirming that his wife was also buried alive. And then the camera just zooms up to him with his family, who all just don't know what kind of monster he is, and it just fucking ends. You're like, okay, was it Dutch or Danish? I think it was Dutch. Anyway,
Dutch, it was Dutch, yeah.
but I was thinking, this is vanishing. I remember K-Pax. I remember that being an oddly big deal.
Yeah.
A movie nobody talks about anymore with what's his name?
Kevin Spacey.
Kevin Spacey, yeah. Another actor who's kind of been blacklisted a little bit, but very, it's easy to forget just how talented he is.
Yeah, because it's a weird thing with Jeff Bridges.
Mm-hmm.
Big in the 80s with Starman, and he did that film with Clint Eastwood as well. I can't remember the name of the film.
Yeah. I know the one.
Lightning Boy and Old Man, or whatever it was
Mm-hmm.
called. I really. Then he kind of disappears, and through the 90s, really, he comes back up with the Big Lebowski. Then he kind of disappears again. But now he's the old man.
Mm-hmm.
He is fucking like literally. He did a TV show, didn't he, called The Old Man? But like this dude, he's found his niche now.
He was never the same person after he did True Grit. It felt like he did True Grit, and it was like he forgot that he was from California. Like he talks differently now. He talks with like a southern drawl.
Thunderbolt and Lightfoot. Sorry, I had to get that.
There we go. No, good job.
Yeah, okay.
It was like all of a sudden he did True Grit, and like I think it was Austin Butler said he had like problems turning off the accent after he finished filming Elvis. Yeah. I just feel like after he did True Grit, he's just like, I'm just going to be Southern from now on. I was like, dude, you're from California. What the fuck's going on? But I don't get me wrong. He can talk however he wants. I absolutely adore Jeff Bridges.
Put him next to his brother, Bo Bridges, and Bo's like, what the fuck are you talking about?
Yeah, he's just speaking with like, and that's the thing, people from like California, famously, like they're quite eloquent. Like they don't have much of an accent. It's a pretty flat English accent, but it is what it is.
Hello High Water as well. Sorry, Hello High Water is fucking fantastic.
Yeah. I've never seen that one.
Have you not?
No,
that's I think that's a Taylor Sheridan thing, who is all over Paramount at the moment. But if you get a chance, Hello High Water. Chris Pine is great in it. Ben Foster.
Oh no! What am I talking about? I've totally seen it. Seen it. I went through a phase of what's his name? It never quite worked out for him.
Ben Foster.
Ben Foster. Massive. I was just like, this dude is going to be a superstar. And he's good in everything he's in, but he was in like maybe a few too many flops. Like he was in the Warcraft movie and stuff. And he was in that like sci-fi Event Horizon ripoff film, which didn't really work out. And it was just Pandorum. Thank you. Terrible name. But he's good in everything. And I was just like, this guy's going to be the guy. And it just, for one reason or another, it feels like he's kind of just drifted off the mainstream a little bit.
I think he just came into it with like 310 to humor. As soon as you saw his weird Charlie Prince, like in 310 to humor, what a fucking turn that was. And then I'm with you. I like him in most of the things he's done.
So,
but
I don't know what you're talking about. Hello, High Water, and I'm just like, no. And I'm just like, no, I've not only seen that film, I love that film.
Yeah,
crazy. But speaking of other movies, so you mentioned you have like a bit of a mixed bag with like the Coen brothers. So are we both in agreement that this is our favorite Coen brothers film? Because I'm a massive Coen brothers fan, and I would have this kind of like just ahead of the likes of like Oh Brother Where Art Thou, Barton Fink, Fargo. For me, a massive movie in my youth was Raising Arizona. So I'll always have like a special attachment to that. Blood Simple, a lot of people have that attachment because it was like their breakout film. But just for those who may not have seen it, who have an interest, obviously, in the Coen brothers, don't sleep on The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. It is, I fucking love that movie. I love it. I mean, I love westerns, but I love that kind of portmanteau style that they're using for that film. I love like each and every story, like, as you get, I think there's like 5 different stories in it. Yeah. The quality does vary slightly, but it's never below good, and the good ones are legitimately great.
It's a fantastic turn by Tim Blake Nelson as well. I'm with you. So
I think that, right, sorry to butt in, but I actually think, and he is fantastic in that film, I think that maybe turns people off early doors, because you go in maybe thinking, oh, this is going to be a Coen's Brothers film, and you see Tim Blake Nelson?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it's like, wait, this is like a Bugs Bunny cartoon? Like it's a big swing, that first section of the film. And don't get me wrong, like even when I watched it, I was like, this is fucking weird. But you soon realize it's absolutely genius and filled with like, ingenious kind of physical comedy. But the rest of the film is actually very different to that in many respects. But it's a big swing, that opening section.
In answer to your question, I would put The Big Lebowski as their top one for me. Mm-hmm. I am a fan of Oh Brother, Where Art Thou? I do remember liking Fargo. I've never seen True Grit. Raising Arizona, I've seen once or twice, enjoyed it. And The Ballad of Buster Scruggs. The other one that I have a soft spot for, I think we said last week, was Lady Killers.
Oh, yeah. I have a soft spot for both that and, what was the one with George Clooney and Catherine Zeta-Jones? The one where he's like a marriage counselor, or is he a lawyer? Jesus Christ, I haven't seen it for a while. It got torn. Like a lot of people.
Intolerable Cruelty.
Intolerable Cruelty. Thank you very much.
Sorry.
It got like a bad rap at the time because it's coming off like what are considered classics, like
Is it a rom-com?
Dude, it's a really but it's a proper Coen Brothers rom-com. Like George Clooney is so good in it. Catherine Zeta-Jones is amazing. And I think it, like, because it was a rom-com and they were 2 of the biggest stars in the world at the time, some people kind of, certainly critics saw it as like a bit of a sellout. It's not that at all. It's a rom-com in the loosest sense of the word. It is weird as shit. It's filled top to bottom with bizarre Coen Brothers characters. Is it their best film? No, but it's totally worth a watch. It's a really easy, really fun watch.
I'm going to bring it back to The Big Lebowski. So I was thinking about it because we haven't mentioned Julianne Moore.
Mm-hmm.
I think that the dude kind of breaks at the wrong point. Like, yeah, all right, he's got Donnie. He's going to be shitting out Donnie for a week, like, because Donnie is now in his mouth. I get that. But I'd be a bit more upset, I think, to the fact that I've just had sex with Maud, who wants my child without consulting me. And Sam Elliott has turned around and said, right, oh yeah, there's a little Lebowski coming. Like he's basically said that's what's happening at the end of the film. So look, is the dude can barely pay his rent. He can't pay for milk unless he writes a check.
She does say specifically she wants nothing to do with him. She just wants the baby. That's it. But the thing is,
she's got specimens pulling him up and down, or pulling her up and down the fucking runway that she uses to paint with. She got specimens who could knock her up at any point. All right, maybe David Thewlis is probably not swinging that way.
I suspect not. It's a strange choice, but I think simply because she was able to get away with doing that test, it's a stretch. And if truth be told, in a film which I adore, I think around an hour in, when you get the stuff with Maud and some of the stuff with Jackie Treehorn, don't get me wrong, by any of the standards, it's perfectly good stuff. It's not my favorite stretch of the movie. And it's weird that you mentioned earlier the fact that about this movie's plot. It's weird because it actually is very plotty. It's just, it doesn't matter. I'm just not sure if ever you've had such a clearly established, well-presented plot has ever been less important to a movie. Like, you actually get plot carpet bombed throughout this movie. So, like, the first sequence you get with the dude, Walter, and Donnie together, you've got 2 things running at the same time, 2 conversations.
Yeah.
They are talking legitimately about the plot. They're pushing the plot forward, but they keep butting in on each other and talking about like non sequiturs and telling Johnny to shut the fuck up. You're like a child who's just wandered into a cinema. It's like you never get any kind of stream of, I don't know, sensible consciousness, which reminds you, it's like, oh, the plot's happening. So you can almost get to the end of the movie and be like, I have no idea what's going on. I actually had forgotten, because I hadn't seen this for a while. I was like, how does this work out at the end? And of course, it just kind of happens. But behind all the, the zany characters and the amazing, I was going to say script, but it's the dialogue. I mean, you've got like a movie which is fundamentally, I don't want to say it's a remake of it. It's inspired by Raymond Chandler's The Big Sleep. And by the end of the film, the dude is ostensibly an undercover investigator. What do you call him? Not an undercover investigator. That's not
A private eye. Well, John Polito says, didn't he? John Polito says, "You're a dick. You're like me. You're a dick. You're a private eye."
I actually think. Remember, we said like on previous podcast, like Starship Troopers and stuff, where you just like you get this scene in the movie just to remind everyone else what's going on. It's just like, oh, they're the bad guys, just in case you didn't get it. It's like in case you didn't get that this is inspired by Raymond Chandler and like The Big Sleep and all these other things. They just throw in Delfino as a private eye. That character comes out of nowhere. It's almost like we didn't need that character to tell us about Bunny's family or anything like that. He's completely superfluous because 2 minutes later, you find out that the plot is almost completely irrelevant because Bunny was just like off to see her friends. And everything else that happened around it was almost incidental.
Do you know you said as well, which was and I've never noticed it until this viewing. You mentioned that they're having two conversations during the bowling scenes.
Mm-hmm.
Always shut the fuck up, Donnie, because he's always late. The reason why they can have two conversations is because the dude never bowls. You never once sees the Big Lebowski bowling. So he's always sat there. So he's talking to Donnie while fucking Walter bowls, I'm guessing. And then he's talking to Donnie while Walter, well, Donnie bowls. So no, like that dude never. He only goes to the bar.
Him go once?
No, you don't see him bowl at all. You see him carrying his bowling ball, but you don't. You do not see him bowl. He doesn't go.
I've got an image of him standing at once, but
the closest he gets to bowling is in his weird fantasy.
Yeah.
Julianne Moore holds the bowling ball and he holds her hand, and then they let it go.
Yeah. I don't think that counts in fairness.
No,
but, and
he doesn't
again,
bowl.
one of cinema's greatest dream sequences, without question.
Yeah,
but
what a fucking song, though. I love that song.
Oh, dude, I've been singing. Is it Kenny Rogers?
I don't know.
I think it's Kenny Rogers. I've listened to that song about 17 times this week. I absolutely love that song. But to bring it back to, I know I mentioned the fact that this film has loads of plot, but to really kind of, drill home the idea that it's almost irrelevant is the fact I think I could watch this movie Memento style. I think because really what this film is a collection of beautifully shot, beautifully acted, beautifully directed scenes that I could watch in almost any order and enjoy this film. It's like, yeah, sure, it works as a film if you stop and think about it. You get beginning, middle, end. You get the whole story with Bunny. You've got the Big Lebowski's plan to get rid of the money. You've got, the side guys with the German Autobahn,
the
nihilists and all that jazz. But none of it really matters. It's just a collection of really enjoyable scenes that if you just muddled it up and just put it in any order, I would still enjoy. And at one point, I was trying to kind of drill down what are my favorite scenes in this movie. And I could only settle on 8. I couldn't get it any shorter. So I've got Smokey, you're entering a world of pain, which is absolute gold. The showdown with the Big Lebowski, the introduction of Jesus, is this your homework, Larry? The toe sequence in the cafe with Walter and the dude, it's like, I'm staying, I'm drinking my coffee.
Yeah.
Gutter Balls, the aforementioned dream sequence. 7, I've seen a lot of Spinals do This Guy Walks. I fucking love that scene. And Donnie, who loved bowling, the ashes in the face. I literally at one point, I think I'm just going to write every fucking scene in this.
You didn't say my favorite scene, to be fair, and I'm not going to tell you what it is.
I think I might have forced myself to stop there, but I'd love to hear yours.
Well, I'll tell you when we get to the actual section.
Oh yeah, of course. We have a whole section for that. Jesus Christ,
Walter. I'm sure Walter as well. Basically, just having conversations with himself. It's like. When he just thought he was involved in the whole plot and everything. Like he gets in the car and he goes, I brought, what did he call the decoy bag?
The undies.
No. He called it something, didn't he?
The ringer.
The ringer. Yeah. And I got the ringer. Well, why'd you bring it? And like Walter just doesn't listen. And when he's trying to, what's the word? Interrogate the kid whose father is in an iron lung. Sorry, I'm about to.
Sorry. That sequence is so. Is this your homework, Larry? Is this your homework?
Yeah, and
this is what you get, Larry. This is what you get when you fuck a stranger in the ass.
The dude just getting so stressed out, and he's like, "Look, man, we know you took it. Like, Where's my fucking money, dude? Like,
I,
oh,
I just love all the stuff with his like ex-wife. That's all thrown in there. Like the fact that he's Jewish now, just because obviously he doesn't want to let go of his 3,000
oh,
years of beautiful
that was
tradition
so good.
from Moses to Sandy Koufax. Like,
Where the dude is just like laying out the whole plot. He's
oh yeah,
laying
yeah.
out the whole plot. He's figured it all out in the van.
Mhm.
And Walter just comes out of the blue going, okay, no, 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 I totally get it, but where's the emergency? Or what
Yeah,
do you
yeah.
mean? Like, well, it's the Sabbath. It's Saturday.
Shoba
Like, I
Shabbath.
shouldn't,
Shoba
yeah.
Shabbath.
Yeah. So I can only come out of my house for emergencies. So where's, and it's like fucking Walter, dude.
I
Calm your
don't
head,
go to
like.
work. I don't answer the phone. I go, sure as shit, don't fucking roll. I mean, legitimately, I think there are at this point, I don't know, 40 famous quotes from this film. Like I think for a lot of people like, such as ourselves who have like an affinity for this film, you could quote almost any line from this film and I'd be like the Big Lebowski. The
Yeah.
Big, I've mentioned those times. Like, I know, like Predator, back to front. Predator hasn't got as many lines, unsurprisingly. In terms of just like memorable lines of dialogue, for me personally, certainly growing up and getting into films in like the late '90s, early 2000s, I just don't think there's another movie which touches it. I just
And
really
that's
don't.
why of all the quotes and stuff, I have to go for one that I haven't heard like anyone
Mhm.
like, hey, careful, man, there's a beverage here. Like, I
Yeah, I
think
mean,
that's fucking great.
the most famous one is like the dude abides and stuff like
Yeah.
that. But the ones I end up using are the ones which are maybe less known, like the ones that have kind of just become main. Like I think I quote them, and Bethan doesn't even know I'm quoting the Big Lebowski. Like he's a good man and thorough. I quote that all the time. Dude, are you fucking this up? Or I'll say it to Bethan all the time, and she's having a bad day. So it's okay. Nothing is fucked. Nothing is fucked. Like this, yeah.
I
It's
usually so I quote two more than any, and one's from two lines. Sorry, one's from this film and one's from Dust Till Dawn.
Mhm.
So from Dust Till Dawn, if we're due to leave or something with the family, I always do. Okay, Ramblers, let's get rambling.
Nice.
But then if I don't, if I'm not that would I do this one, where it's like anything we're gonna do, we're gonna go for food, we're gonna go for a drive or whatever. I always go, fuck it, dude, let's go bowling, or fuck it, dude, let's go swimming. Like you just always, yeah,
Yeah, or if Bethan, like if I'm like getting wound up in the car and she's like, you just need to calm down, calmer than you are. Calmer than
mm,
you are. She loves it when I say that. She loves it specifically when I quote movies she doesn't know. Like, and what drives her crazy is because of the tone, she knows I'm quoting a movie. And she's like, I don't even know what fucking movie you're talking. Like, I would love to quote other lines, but you just can't fit them into everyday life. It's like, I'm not bringing the dog bowling, dude. I didn't rent its shoes. I'm not buying it a fucking beer. There's not many instances of my life where I can use that quote as much as I would absolutely love to. But yeah, my God.
I love the other one I got. We dropped off the damn money. We, the royal we, the editorial. What does that mean?
Such a great line. But I can say that about literally any point of this film.
Yeah,
But one of the things which stood out to me is like how great the dude's look has almost aged. So as I'm watching this film, like I love his hair, I love the sunglasses. The jumper is I've literally got almost the exact same jumper,
yeah.
almost by accident. But the awesome Japanese baseball top, which I'm not sure if you noticed, but the baseball player on the front is Kaoru Beto. He was the first Pacific League MVP and Japan Series MVP back in the 50s. So it was a really famous Japanese baseball player. He wore the exact same top in The Fisher King and Cold Feet. So as far as I can tell,
Okay.
Jeff Bridges is just wearing his own clothes in movies and just doing what the fuck he wants. But as great as part of his look is, the shorts, and this, I'm going to blame my own father on this, there is an element of that I've given up look. There was just one day, I remember, it was just before I moved up to Edinburgh. I came out the house. My dad, sorry, I was coming home. My dad was outside the house. I'm not even sure what he was doing. Just dad shit, just kind of like loitering. And he was wearing shorts like that. And you're just like, when you're just like, God, I hope he's wearing underwear under those goddamn shorts.
Right.
And
Let's
there
not
was that and those clear sandals. Those are fucking unforgivable.
let's not attack the shorts, right? Because I'm currently sat here right now in shorts and sliders. Like,
Yeah, but no, it's not just short. Like there's those specific shorts. There's something about those. There's like, oh, I'm wearing socks, but there's like the American style socks,
the
shit like that.
the best clothing thing I noticed, and again in this one,
Mhm.
was Donnie. Every time you see Donnie was wearing a shirt with a name on it,
Yeah,
just
yeah.
not his name.
It's such a weird
And
character.
it's different names all the time. And the other thing, why is Walter constantly wearing shooter's glasses? And what
Mm.
really upset me about that was the way he took him off at the funeral parlor at the end of it.
Oh, and he
When
kind of
he
hangs it on his ear.
No, yeah, but he's holding it, so he goes from with his left hand, takes it
Yeah.
off from the right side by one arm, and then leaves it hanging. And I'm thinking that is the weirdest way I've ever seen anybody take glasses off
I
ever.
was literally wondering whether that was in the script, how many takes it would have taken, because I feel like if I tried to do that, I would get it wrong and the glasses would fall. I literally
Yeah,
tried right then. It was just going to fall off. But yeah, it's just another one of those like bizarre affectations that they have in this film, which make in the same way that the dialogue kind of elevates just what could be a whatever character. It's even those little visual motifs where it's just a whatever scene, but just that makes that sequence more memorable. In the same way that the dude is sitting there and just eating too many mints. It could just be like a nothing scene, but the glasses and the mints, they even make that, obviously it's memorable because Walter kicks off again, because, he's always 2 minutes away from just losing his shit. But just those little visual motifs just elevate everything. And that's what, you go back and watch this film and it's like, your favorite TV show where you can jump in at any point. You're like, oh, it's season 3, episode 4. It doesn't matter. I know exactly where we are in the story. It's almost irrelevant. I'm just here for the characters, for the experience of watching it. That's how I feel about this, 2-hour movie, where I'm just like, just put me in the middle of this film. I don't give a shit. There are certain films where if I walk in, and it's like 20 minutes in. It's that bizarre thing. If I watch 5 minutes, I have to watch the whole film.
yeah,
Everyone's got a few
yeah,
films like this.
yeah.
This isn't that film. I'll just happily watch a scene and be like, I can come back to this a year later and just watch a different scene. It's absolutely fine. It works as a movie. They work as little almost, we mentioned the Ballad of Buster Scruggs. This kind of, it's not a portmanteau, obviously, because it is one long movie, but the sequences are, they could almost exist in their own little world. They're that perfectly constructed.
You've mentioned the line a couple of times. Do you see what happens when you fuck a stranger in the ass?
Brilliant.
Or do you know what the TV version is?
No, the
So,
ITV 8 p.m. version.
so yeah, it's got to be edited because,
Mhm.
do you see what happens when you find a stranger in the Alps?
Oh my God, that is fantastic. That's actually one of the best ones. That's
That
one
is
of the better
great.
ones.
That is
I
fucking
was kind of
great.
mentally prepared for being upset, but I'm like, that's actually pretty good. Pretty good. Speaking of pretty good, the one thing, because you don't actually see him smoking that much in this film, one of the most underrated aspects of this film is its representation on screen of stoner culture. Not stoner culture, of being stoned.
Yeah.
Like nearly every movie, as soon as weed's involved, it turns into cliche. In this, you could almost miss the fact that he is smoking weed. To me, it
Yeah.
never actually felt like a stoner movie. Sure, the dude has got that interaction, obviously that link to counts culture from the 60s and 70s. Even talks briefly about his past with Maud. But for the most part, he's, when I think of the dude, I think of him as a bowler. And, this might have cinemas, we've mentioned it a bunch of times. It might have cinema's greatest mustache. It might have cinema's greatest rug. I think it also might have cinema's greatest bowling alley. Maybe it's just because I associate it with him, one of my favorite films. But I think the fact that they treat it subtly and it's not thrown in your face every 2 minutes, like nearly every other movie, as soon as somebody picks up a joint, it becomes this big thing. In this movie, it's devoid of cliche. It's just a part of his character, but it's never made a big deal.
It's so nuanced. I mean, he
Yeah,
only
it is.
mentions it once that he's going to smoke a J in front of the real Big
Mhm.
Lebowski. And then you see him just twice then smoking, once with Maud and once in the bath when he's got him on the weird tough pick thing.
I love that sequence with the
It's
marmot.
it's it's
Why
so
are
good as well
marmots so
because
weird?
he would turn around to the Coens when they're talking about what like before they do the scene, he would say to the Coens, "Am I blazed in this scene?" And if they
Yeah,
say
yeah.
yes, he would basically jam his knuckles into his eyes to make his
Mhm.
eyes red to
Yeah.
be stoned in the scene. And fucking great, like so you don't have to say anything, you don't have to do anything. He's just got red eye. You know he's stoned.
Yeah, it's like you don't need to and he never plays it up. He's always got that air of it, almost of the stoner about him. There's only twice in the film, towards the end of the film when he starts becoming a bit more proactive. And I know you mentioned the whole thing with Maud. That's loosely linked to the idea that he's had some kind of character development, that he's almost been in kind of suspended animation since the 60s and the 70s, that the world's moved on without him. And he's just happy bowling, getting stoned. And then all of a sudden he's been forced to interact with the world again, albeit in a very strange way. And the two moments that he's physically interacting with the phone, he's trying to be proactive. One is when he puts up the blocker on the door and he puts the chair there, and literally it's almost the moment he puts the chair there, he
They
just
open
open the
it.
door and the chair falls out. I'm just like, that is absolutely ingenious. Absolutely ingenious. And the other one was when he's trying to spy on Jackie Treehorn, and he goes up and he does the etching, and he's just drawn a character with a big dick. It's like, what other film is going to have that? Any other film that is an excuse to have a plot point, to push the plot forward? Like, oh, he's going to etch something interesting about the characters, and he goes through that whole motion. It's just, oh, it's just a big dick. That's it. Move on with the story. It doesn't really matter. You know the hero's, and he is the hero of the film. He does get there eventually. He does turn into that Raymond Chandler character. He, a kind of unofficial private eye.
Yeah.
But it's all, by time he becomes that quote unquote hero, it's all rendered basically pointless by the fact that he shows up at the Big Lebowski's house. Bunny's returned home. She's just been away with friends. It's literally what, you're spending the whole film trying to guess. Did the nihilist have it? Did something else happen? Did she run away? All these things, just like, oh no, she just went to see friends and she didn't call anyone. And this all happened because of that. It's like the plot is just one long stretched out way of telling you that everyone in this film's a fucking idiot. That's it.
Well, Flea has a great line as well. We haven't mentioned Flea or the nihilist as much. But when he says, we promised his girlfriend $1 million, she cut off her toe. Like, he just...
I was trying to guess actually towards the end of the film because, there's not much violence in this film until they have that showdown with the knife. We take some money. We fucks you up. He bites off the dude's ear, not the dude, the nihilist. And I was trying to decide just how fucked up Flea's character is. So I was putting it, like Predator, which we revisited a couple of weeks ago, where like obviously you get all these characters, like Blaine gets his fucking chest blown out and all these characters dead, and you're just like, one of the worst ones is Poncho getting hit by a tree. You're just like, oh dude, there's something oddly related, not about getting hit by a tree, but by just getting the wind knocked out of you to that extent. And you're just like, oh, he just gets a bowling ball thrown at him. I'm just like, I bet you Flea's character's got like 4 broken fucking ribs. It's horrendous.
It hit him right in the stomach. If he did not shit him, like he shit out a lung at that point, that was not good.
But that's another character we've not talked about was Bunny herself. Like, it's easy to forget. Tara Reid was red hot in the late 90s, early 2000s. Like, coming out of like American Pie and this, I was like, she's going to be like the big star, but she just fucked it.
Were drugs involved in that? I mean, I don't.
Yeah, of course. That's what I mean. She fucked it.
So, American Pie was the next year, wasn't it? Was she big before? Not big, but did she do a lot of stuff before this, or was this one of?
I think of this as being a breakout.
Yeah, it is, because she was in an episode of California Dreams before this. And Saved by the Bell, the new class. Oh,
but she was massive. Like, again, like, you got to think, like, 1999, I'm suddenly into movies. I'm like 17, 18, whatever, 16 when this came out. Tara Reid's in this, and then she's in American. Like, these were like 2 of the biggest movies in my life around this time, were The Big Lebowski and American Pie, for different reasons, but couldn't have been bigger parts of my life back then.
6 films between The Big Lebowski and American Pie. 6 films, 98 and 99, and there's 6 films between them. So she did The Big Lebowski in 98, A Girl in 98, I Woke Up Early the Day I Died in 98. The other one I remember her from, Urban Legend. She was the radio host.
Yeah, I remember Urban Legend. Yeah.
That was 98.
That was like one of the lesser slack. This is coming out around the same time as I Know What You Did Last Summer, Scream, all that jazz. There's a whole bunch of them. And that was one of those ones which did like okay box office, but nobody talks about anymore.
Around the Fire, 98. Murder at Devil's Glen, 99. Cruel Intentions in 99.
She was in Cruel Intentions?
Yeah, apparently, yeah. And then American Pie.
I haven't seen Cruel Intentions for age. Cruel Intentions is a big film, though. That's a big film.
But really Cruel Intentions, again, I think is like in the 2000s, in 99.
No. Definitely late 90s.
Cruel Intentions.
Felipe.
Cruel Intentions, again, one of them that didn't... They did this, quite a few of these kind of films back in the late 90s. Cruel Intentions had a couple of sequels. With the no, I didn't watch them.
Okay. Yeah, I wasn't even yours. I was just like, I don't think he's probably watched it.
But I know that, and what was the other? Wild Things had a bunch of these kind of sequels as well.
Oh yeah, and Wild Things is a big deal as well.
Yeah. And the other one, do you remember the film with Joshua Jackson and Paul Walker? The Skulls.
Yes, yeah, I remember that.
Secret Society. Yeah, there's like 3 or 4 of those as well, straight to DVD sequels. Like all these kind of weird teen. What was it? Teen secretive films. I don't even know that. Like they all had then these teen murder films, I guess.
Yeah.
Teen, not horror films.
Teen slasher films, teen horror.
Not even a slasher, but not slasher films. These were like the teen nihilist films, I guess. So,
I know what you mean. Yeah, like secret society movies and shit.
Yeah, those kind of. And all of a sudden, there's fucking like three, four, five sequels in the late
I
early
think it was just
2000s. Like,
anything. I mean, we're trying to find a genre, and there is that kind of link between Secret Society, slash films, all that thing. But the one thing they had was like that certain like MTV vibe, like that younger generation,
yes,
and any of
yes,
those
yes,
which
yes.
even hit remotely big. I was like, there was a bunch of sequels. Was it like I feel like almost there should have been like 3 or 4 sequels to Varsity Blues, perhaps, because that feels like even though it was a sports film, it
Yeah.
almost fell into like the same, like in the same way American Pie did. There was just like a bunch of these like they just were like, oh, we're taking a bunch of sexy teens and we're putting them in movies in a way that you just don't get anymore. Like they
No,
did it in
because
the
the problem is
80s.
though, Varsity Blues didn't take a bunch of teens. They
No, no.
took a
Well, people
bunch.
who look like
They,
similar
yeah,
with the 80s, like with the I was going to say the Breakfast Club. That was the movie. The people in the Breakfast Club, the Brat Pack.
yeah.
A big thing was like, oh, we've got this like group of like 8, 9, young talented act. That was maybe the difference in the 80s. They were a lot of like talented young actors, and they put them in films. Whereas maybe the late 90s, early 2000s, some of them were talented, but a lot of them were just like, oh, they look like they could be in music videos. Let's get
I
them on
mean,
the screen.
say what you will, I do like Varsity Blues.
Oh, I fucking love, dude. We are
It's
doing Varsity Blues. 100, if only for, dude, when they like come out onto the field and they play My Hero by Foo Fighters.
yeah.
Ah, talk about an important moment in
I
my
mean, to be
life.
fair, you do have Thunderstruck in there as well. I
Oh,
love
dude, yeah, yeah,
yeah.
absolute banger as well. Like, I am, I've got it in my head that that film is totally going to hold up. I might be wrong, but dude, that was like the era of like that. Remember the Titans? Any given Sunday. Oh, the
Yeah,
sports films at the end
yeah.
of the 90s, early
The
2000s were
the
bangers.
replacements.
The Replacements, another great shout. Oh,
Yeah,
dude, we're going to have to do a sports season soon, aren't we? It's in
yeah,
the
I think
post.
so.
It is in the post.
Yeah, but that's the
Anything
problem. You
else
can
for
do
it?
a sports season, and every film we mentioned then was an American football film. You have to do an American football season.
We could do. That's the thing because we're
Yeah.
talking about doing an American sports season. So we'll do like 4 movies, one for hockey, one for basketball, and we can easily do that. But I think we could also then come back and just do an American football season because there's a whole
And a
bunch we want to
hockey film.
cover.
Like, there's so many hockey films I want to cover.
So
Like,
yeah,
anyway,
I'm more inclined to do like multiple American sport. Nobody wants to see the British version. Nobody wants to see a terrible football slash soccer movie, like, unless of course you want to watch like I don't know, it's like a misery watch of Escape to Victory or something like that. Oh Jesus Christ!
no, sorry, mate. I heard your question. I've pretty much said everything I want to say about this.
I just find it interesting before we go that I'm still not sure why Donnie had to die. If only maybe it was just for the Asher sequences. But I love the fact that even the stranger says it. That's why I think the stranger is more than just a narrator. Like he almost seems disappointed in the dude every so often. Like it's like I like
Yeah.
him,
Well,
and
you're right
I
because
feel like I'm attached to this character. But every so often, I just wish he would swear a little less. I just wish he would tone it down.
yeah,
But I can equally be convinced that he is literally just a narrator. And someone was just like, wouldn't it be cool if Sam Elliott in full fucking cowboy gear narrated this film? And they just went, yeah, that would be fucking dope. And honestly, that's enough for me. That's
you're
enough.
right though because as I say that as we talked about it, he knew that the baby was coming.
Yeah, yeah,
Like
yeah, yeah.
he knew that sooner than so he can
That's what
maybe
I mean.
see the future. So yeah, maybe he is
It's
something more than
not.
just a narrator.
That's
But
why I didn't think it was the God thing. I don't think he's omnipotent because he even says he's not been to Paris, any of these things. But he does seem to be very well informed on the life and times of the dude. So I think maybe
yeah,
there is more of an attachment to him. But whichever way you want to look at it, it almost doesn't matter. It works if you just want to see it on the surface and just be like, he's just a narrator, he's just a guy who's come to LA, a fish out of water. That works. If it's something a bit more, that also works. It doesn't
yeah.
matter. All
Oh,
right. Favorite
next section.
scene. Oh, this is a tricky one. This is a
Do you want me?
fucking
Do you want me
tricky
to go
one.
first?
Yeah, go for it, buddy. Go for it.
Right, where did I had that saved. I said, yeah, there you go. It's definitely because it always catches me out.
Mhm.
It's when the dude is talking to the Malibu police chief. They're just having a nice conversation. They're just
That's a
talking.
great sequence.
And then all of a sudden, he launches the cup at his head, right?
It's
He
a
falls
proper throw
over.
as well.
Yeah, and it bounces out, and he's like, stay at Malibu, Lebowski. Stay at Malibu, deadbeat. Keep your ugly fucking gold bricking ass out of my beach community. And then that goes on then to him in the taxi with his head in his hand, and he's going, "Can you change the channel, dude? I hate the fucking Eagles." And the dude, like, and the taxi driver just chucks him out because he doesn't like the Eagles. Oh, the fucking
It's
wicked scene.
it's genius. I would say that this film, because I've never been like but I've never really listened much to the Eagles. But this movie had the same effect on me with the Eagles that watching Sideways had with my opinion on Merlot. Like it was so definitive. Like I just fucking hate the Eagles that I'm just like, oh, maybe I hate the Eagles as well. And it's like I've drunk Merlot, but when I even to this day when I see a bottle of Merlot, I just think, oh, I fucking hate Merlot because of Sideways. It's absolute bullshit. But that's how it's. Again, it's a perfect example of this film where it's a throwaway scene, but it just sticks in your head. Why does the dude saying I fucking hate the Eagles become so goddamn memorable? But it is. You're absolutely right. I mean, in terms of my own favorite scene, take your fucking pick. But I've got it down to one of two. It's either the Jesus intro, which is, I've already quoted earlier, absolute gold, or the This Is What Happens, Larry, because I think that is the most broadly comedic scene in the movie. It's not the best written scene in the movie. I can make an argument for that first sequence with Donnie, Walter, and the dude together. But there's something about the way John Goodman, who I adore in this film, beats the shit out of this car. There's even a bit when he kind of scuttles around the car, and there's something about the way his feet moves and the audio of that sequence. That's always memorable. So I'm going to go with the Jesus intro, though. You just can't beat that. I genuinely think it's one of cinema's greatest intros for a pederast.
For me to call you out on that, though, not call you out, but to know exactly that you would have done a Jesus quote.
Oh, you absolutely nailed it. You absolutely nailed it. Well, this is what comes from doing 207 episodes of this fucking podcast with me. In terms of loves and hates, for me, number one, unsurprisingly, one of the great casts. It's up, I'm not going to say it's the best cast of 90s cinema, because as we found out doing this podcast over, the aforementioned 207 episodes, there are a lot of great ensembles in the 90s, but this is right up there. Two, the script, specifically the dialogue, I think that goes without saying. And number three, the soundtrack. Bob Dylan, Sons of the Pioneers, Creedence Clearwater Revival, Kenny Rogers, who we mentioned, that really is the absolute banger on the soundtrack. And, as I said, the soundtrack is so successful that just by association now I hate the Eagles just because I was told to. So those are my loves.
For me, soundtrack as well. I think the soundtrack is great. I do enjoy the Eagles. I'm sorry. I
don't actually even hate the Eagles. I'm just at least indifferent towards them in the same way I'm different to Merlot, because I feel like I started on the back foot because of these films.
Secondly, I will mention the cast like you, but I got to give flowers to Bridges. Jeff Bridges alone as the dude. I think he's fucking great in this film.
Completely reasonable. You literally, you could have said anyone, and I'd be like, yeah, that's fair enough. But yeah, Jeff Bridges, he is the star of this film. Make no mistake.
And it was the thing is, it was really hard to just pick three, right? Because
same here.
As I've said at the beginning, this film shouldn't work. It's just a bunch of people talking about not doing anything, but it works so well, and I had to nail it down, and I think I did as well. I like you, because I called you out for the. I keep saying called you out like it's a bad thing for the intro. Jesus, Jesus, I want to call him Jesus. Jesus's intro is great. Like it shouldn't work. You shouldn't enjoy a guy who's meant to be that disgusting on screen. Like he's licking his bowling ball, pederast, dude, fucking pederast, but. Jesus, like it works.
Yeah, it's again, it's one of those weird ones. But as I said, I think a big part of that is obviously, the aforementioned cast, but the dialogue in particular. It's those. I always, when I think of the dialogue in this film, I always think of those interactions between Donnie, Walter, and the dude. And I mentioned it earlier, the fact that they're both talking about the plot and talking about something completely different, and then you've got Donnie in the background just acting confused and being told to shut the fuck up.
Shut the fuck up, Donnie.
I just think in the cinema when he gets really worked up, he just brings up one thing. He's so angry by the fact that Donnie's even just talked for a moment.
Yeah.
Their relationship is absolutely bizarre. But the fact that you can have these moments and you're just like, what should I be paying attention to? Like their lives, their interactions, the plot itself, it almost doesn't matter. You just get caught up in the whole, like the brilliance of the scene. And I think it kind of all combines to create, even by the Coen standards, the Coens do make idiosyncratic films. You go back to Raising Arizona, or Brother Art Thou, and, based on, Homer's, is it Iliad? I think it's based on. Anyway, whatever it is. The fact that even amongst those, I feel like the Big Lebowski stands out. And as we mentioned, it's clearly been influenced by Raymond Chandler and all that jazz and his style, whether it be his screenwriting or his novels from the the 30s and the 40s, but it still feels completely its own beast. There is legitimately nothing else quite like the Big Lebowski, even within the Coen brothers oeuvre, and I think that's the reason it stood the test of time to such a great extent. In terms of hates, This is a tricky one, and you've got to take this with a pinch of salt because I don't actually hate anything about this film. But I mentioned it earlier, the Julianne Moore and Jackie Treehorn section, it's still interspliced with genius. When I think of Julianne Moore, you still get the fantastic dream sequence.
Yeah.
It's just, I feel like the movie slows down a little bit, and it's the only bit, if I was going to skip a section of the film, it's around that hour part. As I said, it all gets a bit plotty, and I'm just not as attached to those characters. Two, Liam isn't exactly the coolest character in the world, as I mentioned. That was quite upsetting for me. And again, if I was going to nitpick, the first 45 minutes are the movie's best. There's fantastic scenes throughout, but I still think the best part of this film is the first 45 minutes. The rest of it's still great, but it's ever so slightly diminishing returns. As I said,
Yeah.
I'm nitpicking.
Oh, you're not the only one, right? Because again, if you really, really look deep into this film, maybe you can find things that you didn't like. Hates is probably a strong one for this film, but so I've got three. But my God, they're just they're so fucking like
We could
ridiculous.
almost rename this though my three not favorite things, if that makes sense. That'd probably be closer to the truth.
The bowling ball hitting the tiles. Because the tiles are just broke now. Like as a homeowner, as a guy, you have to fucking pay to get those tiles replaced. But you're not replacing the one tile. But I guarantee you, those tiles are now no longer in stock. So you've got to replace the whole fucking bathroom.
We've had the flooring. If you walked into my house, if you just like showed up out of the blue and you peed on my rug, honestly, I'd be like, that's weird, but I might find it funny.
Yeah.
If you came in and dropped a bowling ball on our newly refurbished hardwood floor, I think we're having a physical interaction. I'd be like, dude, I'm going to have to fight you. Like, dude, I love you to bits, but that was fucked up. I'm going to have to fight. I would be so upset. So yeah, I totally agree.
Exactly. Number two, not enough Sam Elliott for me. Need more Sam Elliott.
It's tricky because I love the fact that he shows up briefly in the middle of the film, which adds that sense of wonder.
He bookends it, but then you've got him. But again,
it's tricky. No, because I love
want more Sam Elliott.
Yeah.
And two and three, Walter by the end of it got on my nerves. But he's meant to. But also that may be because his attitude may be a little bit close to the bone. Like,
can you see a little bit of Walter in yourself?
Maybe just a tad. When you get to the end and you get to the coffee can scene and like the Donnie in the face scene, and he's wearing shorts and he's wearing a shirt and he's wearing and I'm thinking, oh fuck, am I Walter in this?
Can you imagine just like he catching you in the wrong mood? Yeah. Just because we're bereaved doesn't make us sense. We're just like losing his shit. I mean,
I don't think I've ever gone around going, shut the fuck up, Liam. But
how many times have I said that to you? It's like, I love you, but you're a fucking asshole. It's just one of those things. Fair enough. But yeah, a bit of a stretch with the hates, but it is what it is. Any alternative titles for this film?
I thought there might be, but to be fair, no, not really. So
it's hard to twist on this, isn't it? It's because when you stop and think about it, we've become accustomed to it. But I have to stress, again, because I remember it coming out, and it was one of the more kind of, you'd almost call this a bit niche, a bit of an indie film. It was really at the start of me kind of like dipping a toe into the world of indie movies. And I remember just because I had obviously started, like I mentioned earlier, I'd started reading Empire, and that actually made me more aware of these films. And I saw the review, and I know these faces, but I see the title, The Big Lebowski, and I see them holding a toe, and I'm just like, I don't get what this film is.
Yeah.
I don't. It's a weird title. You can imagine they're just coming off Fargo. Fargo was a big hit for them, and they're just like, oh, you got the keys to the kingdom. You can make whatever you want. We're making The Big Lebowski. I can imagine some people have just been like, what the fuck is going on here? But yeah,
we got like 4 alternate titles, sort of alternate titles. So, Canada, the French Canada, obviously, Mistake on the Person.
Okay, sure.
Okay, yeah. Greece, The Great Lebowski.
Yeah, that's fine.
Yeah. Mexico, The Big Lebowski, Dangerous Identity.
Sure, superfluous, but fine.
Yeah. Peru just calls it Dangerous Identity.
Mm-hmm.
Going down. South Korea, The Great Lebowski. We already did that one. Taiwan, Murder Green Toes.
I mean, it's a bit of a word jumble, isn't it? It's just these are things that are in the movie. It's like the AI generated title for this movie, Murder Green Toes. But sure, it's not the worst.
And finally, Vietnam, Earl Lebowski.
Earl Lebowski.
Yeah.
I guess they're just going for like a title, like he's the important one, isn't it? It's like
Yeah.
Lord Count Lebowski, something like that. It's yeah, there's
No,
obviously a kind of
I saw Earl as Earl, like my name is Earl.
oh, see, I just assume because he's the Big Lebowski, they're just giving him a quite fancy
A
title.
grandiose title, as it were.
Yeah, the Earl of
Yeah.
Lebowski or whatever. But anyway, any
Okay.
facts?
Oh boy, are there?
Yeah, I'm sure there are. You're gonna have to be
Yeah.
selective here, dude.
Yeah. Right. So a lot of the dude's clothes in the movie were Jeff Bridges' own clothes, including his jelly sandals, which he still owns and uses to the day.
Oh, I was hoping the jumper, not the. I really don't like those Shelly sandals, dude.
In an interview with Rolling Stone magazine, John Goodman stated that the dude referring to the Big Lebowski as a human paraquat was one of the only improvised lines to make it into the film.
I've got
Virtually
that
every other
down.
line, including every man and dude, was scripted.
We didn't. I didn't mention it because we didn't get around to it, but I had that written down. I was like, if ever there was a line which was ad-libbed, it's the paraquat. I was like, that's
Yeah.
such a weird line. There's just no way that was written down. And I'm not going to lie, I don't think the line works. I'm not a fan of it. It's
No.
one of the. I could have put that in hates. Actually, it's not my favorite line. Sorry, Jeff. You'll be fine. You'll get over it.
The dude says man 147 times in the movie. That's nearly 1.5 times a minute that the word man is said.
See, it's weird because his character being the dude, I was just thinking about it. It's just made me self-aware about how many times I say dude. Like I say it in work. I say it to management. I just become a part of my lexicon. I just call people dude. I think it's because I've always been terrible with names. So just, all right, dude. Hey, dude. And just like everyone's a dude. So
Yeah.
it is what it is.
John Turturro originally thought he was going to have a bigger role in the film. When he read the script, he realized the part was quite small. However, the Coen brothers let him come up with a lot of his own ideas for the character, like shining the bowling ball and the scene where he dances backwards, which he says was inspired by Muhammad Ali.
Cool.
Jeff Bridges initially had reservations that the dude would be a bad example for his daughters. He accepted the role after his middle daughter said they knew he was acting.
Well, that's quite nice at least.
When Jesus has to go door to door sharing that he's a convicted sex offender, he has a large bulge in his tight pants. The bulge was formed by a bag of birdseed.
I know. I can honestly say I never noticed that.
To achieve the point of view of a rolling bowling ball, the Coen brothers mounted a camera on something like a barbecue spit, according to Ethan Coen, and then dollied it along the lane. The challenge for them was figuring out the relative speeds of the forward motion and the rotating motion. CGI was used to create the vantage point of the thumb hole in the bowling ball.
Well, it worked.
The final scene consists of a 2 minute, 27-second single take, which culminates in pro bowler and consultant on the film Barry Asher scoring a perfect strike.
Yeah, I love that like sequence at the end where it's just at the bowling alley, just celebrating bowling culture. Fantastic.
Of all the different personalized bowling shirts Donnie wears throughout the film, none of them bear his name. There you go. What else have we got here? The F word or a variation of was used 292 times.
Good
That
stuff.
Deadpool versus Wolverine. The second time we see Treehorn's thugs, they've swapped clothing. I didn't notice that. They
No, I
swapped
didn't notice
clothes.
that either.
Yeah.
Did not notice that at all.
And obviously something we haven't mentioned, because we don't do Legacy anymore. There's a religious movement based on the dude, the Church of the Latter-day Dude.
Yeah, I remember that being a
Yeah.
thing that they get together every year. They all dress with the jumper and everything, and they have like a competition: who's the best dude, who's the best Walter, all that jazz. It was for a long time. I'm not sure. I assume it's still running, but it was a big deal for a while. Relatively, as far as cult movie movements go, anyway.
Hang on. Norwegian posters and video cassettes carried the text, and I'm sorry about this, Anbefales av Norsk Bowling Forbund, recommended by the Norwegian Bowling Association.
Lovely. I mean, I'm not Norwegian, but that sounded solid enough to me. Put it that way.
Yeah. I'm going to leave it with that perfect pronunciation.
Perfect Norwegian. Yeah, of course. Hope to the Future. So there's really asked the question: remake sequels, Let It Die or Leave Well Alone.
Oh, this is fucking easy. This
is so easy. Of course, you leave it well alone. They actually did. Jesus Rolls was in 2019. It was a spin-off rather than a sequel. It was actually a remake of a 1974 French film Going Places by Bertrand Blier. That is what it is. But it was a movie nobody liked, nobody watched. Leave this movie so well alone. Like, it's one of those things like, oh, do we want more Jesus? You can imagine somebody in the room going, oh, that would be cool. You don't. You know, do you want to see a movie about the stranger? No, because you would lose the magic. Just leave this film so fucking well alone. It's aged wonderfully. It looks gorgeous to this day. It's wonderfully acted. Do not touch it.
Oh, maybe we're not going to be. Maybe it wasn't easy then, because I would have said sequel.
Oh,
I'm joking.
No,
Leave it alone.
you
Leave
did
it
that
alone.
so You did that so straight face. I absolutely believed you. I mean, there was I'll accept the Super Bowl advert that they did a few years ago.
Yeah,
Have those
yeah.
little bits of fun, sure thing. Like, would I like to see a Super Bowl advert which had both the dude and Walter? I'm like, yeah, let's fucking go for it. But yeah, not another sequel. No, no,
No,
no. Thank
just
you.
leave it alone. I mean, it storm in a teacup. This was. You're never gonna match this again. It's perfect the
No.
way it is. So just leave it alone.
No, lightning in a bottle, storm and tea, all those things. It's
Yeah.
just magic at the time. Make a change. This one's a bit of a tricky one. I could say just destroy the pseudo sequel. Just forget about that. But you could tighten up the Julianne Moore section. You could even say more Brandt, perhaps. Like this is a movie where I like. There's so many fantastic characters and so many brilliant actors. It's the only movie in the world, I think, where you can almost forget that Philip Seymour Hoffman's in it. Like, and he's brilliant in it. Like, that's how good this film is. That Philip Seymour Hoffman, who gives a brilliant Philip Seymour Hoffman performance, might be the 8th or 9th most memorable character in this film. If that doesn't tell you how fucking good this film is, like nearly every other film where Philip Seymour Hoffman's in it, he's always in it like the top 3 for sure.
Yeah, yeah,
In
yeah.
this film, he is, and like I said, that's not a criticism of his performance. He's great. He might be 9th. It's insane. So yeah, I'll just say my answer is maybe just tighten up the plot in the middle of the film.
Give the dude $1,000. I'll suck your cock for. I'll suck your cock for $1,000. Make sure he's got the $1,000. But then that becomes the actual Big Lebowski porn parody. I'm pretty sure he has the $1,000.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure.
Yeah.
And then Brandt's got $100 and he watches,
Yeah,
and
yeah.
it goes from there. Yeah. I'm not sure if we need that film. Video games, so if only, I guess. If I was going to do a Big Lebowski video game, I mean, the obvious thing would be to do like a walking simulator, but with maybe a bit more driving. Like you can have it like it's all really low key, but you slowly gain a tiny bit of responsibility as the game progresses. But mostly you just being the dude like cutting about LA and going bowling and driving around in his shitty car. The closest to what I have in mind for this game is actually, I'm not sure if you ever played it. It's called Lake. It was released a couple of years ago. It's by Gamius. It's more of a graphic adventure, but it's like this really low-key, very charming game set in 1986. And basically, you just kind of like drive around. It's like kind of like the northeast of America. I'm not sure if it's I can't remember if it's the Pacific Northwest or if it's kind of Maine-ish region. So or the Atlantic Northeast, I suppose you'd call it. But you just kind of like you just drive around the town, around the lake, funny enough. You talk to the characters. It's super low key. Nothing really happens. I would just have that a tad more Raymond Chandler intrigue and Cohen stylistic choices. But I would just have him basically driving back and forth from his house to the bowling alley. And you occasionally have to do things for characters, but it's all super low key. So that's what I'd go for.
Graphic adventure as well. I went for, and I like how you said it was obvious. Like the obvious choice would be like a walking thing. It's Leisure Suit Larry, dude.
With a little less, I guess the pornography. That'd be the Jackie Treehorn spin-off for sure.
So it's a little less trying to fuck, but it's like it's it's Leisure Suit Larry. It's walking around. It's doing these like it's doing mundane things.
Less, yeah, but just more bowling and less sex, basically.
Yeah.
Yeah, Let's Shoot Larry is actually a great shout. I just want to bring up Lake because I think it's an underrated game. I think it's really fun. We'll say you won. So yes, I think the answer is a less sex-oriented Leisure Suit Larry, I think is the correct answer for the Big Lebowski. And you could have done it at the time because I'm pretty sure Leisure Suit Larry like hit big in like in the late 90s. So they could have released that version alongside the movie in fairness. For like the Amiga 500 or something stupid like that.
It's been going since the 80s, haven't it, Leisure Suit Larry?
I think so. It was always like a home computer thing. And it was just, I was never into home computers, but everyone knew Leisure Suit Larry, especially when we were younger, because there was no like, pornography was almost impossible to come by. Nobody had the internet, so it was definitely not that. So you were just like, wait, there's a video game which is about sex. It felt like this big deal. But none of my friends had home computers, so nobody had Leisure Suit Larry. So it's just this thing I heard about. And of course, by the time I was old enough to play it, I was fucking well beyond the idea of going back to, it's like, a bit of smut. I'm fine. There's actual pornography on my phone now.
That wasn't a single cough, like to signal you to stop or anything. I literally thought I pressed mute when I coughed and I didn't.
I've done that.
Apologies for that.
So the next section is best and worst of IMDb. So this is where we pick a random 1-star and 10-star review of the movie. I'm guessing there's quite a few reviews. 622.
Oh, fucking hell. 1,522. You got the 22, right?
Yeah, that's weird, right? 10-star reviews. There's got to be a lot of them, man. 422.
624.
Oh, see, I thought it was going to be like super high, but I was just like, oh,
No, no,
surely some
no.
people are going to be a bit more nuanced
Think
or
about
something.
what you said. You said 622 overall views,
Hmm.
and it's 624
Oh, actual 10-star
10
reviews.
stars. Yeah.
That is, I guess, bizarre, close but not close in a weird way. So yeah, 10-star reviews. Go for it, man.
Right. So this one was written in March 2004, titled "You Can Watch It a Million Times and Yet It Will Never Get Old."
I
The
agree.
Big Lebowski. Sorry. Ah,
I just
the Big
agree. That's
Lebowski.
all.
The Big Lebowski is the type of movie that is so funny and so clever. You want nothing more but to meet the Coen brothers, congratulate them personally for their unique talent, and get inside their heads and find out what makes these two geniuses tick. The main characters are Jeff Bridges, who plays such broad roles like the Muse, the Contender, and Seabiscuit. John Goodman, who should have
So
won an
sorry
Oscar.
to butt in, but it's so interesting that all the movies he picked were all the movies we didn't mention on this podcast. We must have mentioned like 20 Jeff Bridge movies. We didn't mention any of those.
John Goodman, who should have won an Oscar for Best Supporting Actor.
I agree.
Julianne Moore, and Steve Buscemi, who is unique in every Coen Brothers movie. The first time I saw this movie, I will admit that I enjoyed it, but I did not fully appreciate its level of humor and raw talent. I thought the middle section was a bit too depressing and long, but trust me, this is a movie that gets more funny every time you see it. Even if it's your thousandth time seeing it, its level of comedy, action, brutality, and vulgarity become that much more evident and important. The characters are brilliantly written by the Coen brothers and likewise are brilliantly portrayed by the actors. The Big Lebowski is like no other film. It will make you laugh and it will make you cry. There is no other film such as TBL that is sharp and witty all the way through. One of the Joel and Ethan Coen's best and one of the movie industry's best comedic films of all time. You want to go and see this flick. On a side note, can I just say thank you to this fucking reviewer for making it legible?
Yeah, just having,
Usually when I
yeah.
read these reviews, I get so tongue because I have no idea what they're saying, and like they don't put commas
Yeah.
or full stops in. And
All of a sudden, to be put on the spot, you suddenly realize the importance of punctuation. But he does, one of the things he mentions there is like that unique Coen Brothers style. And, obviously, it's not in all of their movies. I don't think we mentioned No Country for Old Men, which still feels like Coen Brothers film, but feels like something quite unique. When you think of like quintessential Coen Brothers films,
yeah,
I still think of this, I think of Oh Brother, I think of Fargo and stuff. And there's that style which you think it'd be easy to imitate, but it's so hard to capture. And another director we mentioned earlier in this podcast, David Lynch, has the same thing. It's like you're like, why does this work? And a lot of people have tried to recreate Lynch, but as soon as it's somebody trying to recreate it, it just feels like a fake, for lack of a better term. I'm sure there is a better term. I just won't come to mind at the moment. But it's the same with the Coen brothers. You see other directors who have stepped in and been like, oh, I've got like a Coensy brothers style, and it
yeah,
just doesn't work. If it's not the original, if it's not them, something just feels off. There's that intangible something about their movies. Like I said, the same way with Lynch, in a different style, but intangible in the same way, where you're just like, it just comes back to what we said, the intro. It just works. Yes, it has things which you can objectively say, good actors, good writing and something, but there's something intangible about the way that it comes together to create something unique and brilliant, which you just won't find anywhere else, I don't think.
uh, 1 stars. How many
Oh,
1 stars do you think we got?
there's going to be a few because there are some psychos. Well, no, I don't want to say psychos because I get if this film doesn't click for you, I can see how you might be like I said, my wife doesn't like it. She's just like, I don't get it. Nothing seems to happen, and everyone's annoying. I'm like, all right, fair enough. I'm going to go with 42,
92.
92. See, that's actually a
Yeah,
bit higher.
yeah. So, written in March 2011, titled "Biggest Movie Disappointment of My Life."
Mhm.
I like non-mainstream flicks, Blue Velvet, Boxing Helena, and so on. I like comedy that is not dependent on stupid sight gags or scatological humor. This movie had been out for a few years before I watched it. I had heard, a gem that was waiting for me. I had looked forward to it greatly. I didn't find any aspect of the movie funny, other than the enigma that it's well liked by many. I suppose this is where I differ from most. I don't find a guy walking around with a mixed drink all the time funny. I don't find Dan Connor overreaching as a guy who is a Vietnam vet freaking out about anything funny, particularly because there's been done before. I don't find the Italian guy acting fooling while bowling to be funny. I don't find referencing a guy as the dude with article obligatory to be funny, and on and on. What's funny? Dennis Miller, he's funny. George Carlin, he's funny. The Big Lebowski, not funny. I really don't have any comment on the ins and outs of the movie, just not funny. And given that it's a comedy, that to me is a fatal mistake. He really, really just wanted to laugh.
He did, and I think if you go in with that, and that is one of the things, one of the reasons I think maybe there is a relatively high percentage of one-star reviews, because as we've mentioned numerous times, this idea that if it doesn't click for you, the whole film kind of falls down. And on top of that, a lot of people, this film would have been talked up. So you see these amazing reviews, and there are people like you and I who are just like, oh, dude, not only is this a funny film, this is one of my favorite movies, full stop. That's the way a lot of people talk about this film, is in that kind of rarefied air of like, no, this is like a masterpiece. So you're going in with these like super high expectations, expecting it to be hilarious. And then you don't get on with the characters, and you're just like, well, none of these jokes work. And as we mentioned at the top, people get carried away with the whole idea that this is hilarious. It's funny, but it's not hilarious. A big part of the reason you love it is because of the characters, because of the dialogue, not because of like a constant array of like, as we mentioned, sight jokes or traditional gags. So if fundamentally the tone doesn't work for you, then everything else falls down, and you're just like, I don't understand why people make such a big deal. And you intrinsically have a stronger reaction because everyone's been telling you. If everyone's just like, oh, that film's fine, it'd probably be water off a duck's back. Oh, well, it's not for me. But when everyone's telling you this is a masterpiece, this is the greatest movie, and then you go and see it, and you're just like, I don't get it, then you end up with a 1-star review. So yeah, understandable. Even if we totally disagree, obviously, which brings us to our own ratings and recommendations. Yep. I wonder where this is going to go. Yeah, it's a 5 and a yes. Totally.
Wow.
I know. Who knew? Who knew?
No, not who knew. Who knew you'd leave it there? Well done, dude. Yeah, it's a 5 and a yes. Like there's no way about it. It's just it's a 5, and you would recommend it. It's fun to watch. Telling somebody it's a gem that's been waiting for them, maybe not, because that's setting it up for failure, I believe.
Yeah.
But
there's one other caveat as well, and it's only based. This is based to an extent on my own experiences, because another one of my friends, he and his wife are massive movie fans. His wife also doesn't like this film, and I don't think that's a coincidence. This is a very guy movie, and that doesn't preclude women from liking this film by any stretch. But it's the same with like a TV show like Curb Your Enthusiasm. A lot of women don't like Curb Your Enthusiasm because it's based largely on male neurosis. A lot of the characters in this film have neurosis, and a lot of that is very, very male. This is a very dude, no pun intended, oriented movie. And I don't think it'll necessarily have the same connection to a lot of women. This is like, I just like a lot of people I know who don't like this film happen to be female, and I don't think that's a coincidence. So if I was suggesting this movie to a female colleague in world, it would come with that caveat to be like, listen, I love this film. I know a lot of people who love it. But I also know just by chance a lot of women who aren't so keen. So, beware.
I don't think I've ever spoken. I think I've decided for her that she's not going to like it, because I've never watched it with my wife. Mm-hmm. And I might watch it because I watch quite a lot of these films with her, because obviously we're together when we watch them. But as I said to you off pod, I watched this at 5 o'clock this morning. So
that's hardcore. I wonder if you're right, legitimately, because I think we need to clear this up. I think 1,000,001 people have stayed up all night and watched this at 5 o'clock in the morning. I don't think anyone has got up and watched this at 5 o'clock in the morning. I think you might be the first.
I will say, I didn't wake up to watch it. I was already awake. I'd already walked the dog. I'd already done my stuff.
But you know what I mean? The important thing is you've woken up and then you've watched this movie that early in the day. I think most people watching this film 4 or 5 in the morning, it's the end of a fucking bender or a long night kind of thing. So you've watched it in a unique way, put it that way.
But yeah, so I didn't give her the chance. So I'm not too sure on her feelings for it. So I might have to ask her and see what she thinks.
See, I've got the issue because I mentioned it earlier. The first Coen brothers film we watched together was Burn After Reading at the cinema. She hated it. And it is a very Coen's film. I don't hate that film, but it's the weakest one of their weakest ones. I'm not going to argue with you. I don't mind it. I still think there's like interesting performances in it. I quite like George Clooney and Brad Pitt in it. It's not a great film, so I'm not going to argue with you at all. And I totally understand why Bethan hates it, but it means that she has just no time for she hates it that much. And I'm trying to convince her to watch Fargo, because I don't think Frances McDormand gets enough credit as one of the greatest female action heroes of all time. You think she does everything in that film while pregnant. And of course, you think of like the traditional cinematic feminine action. Is that the right word? Feminine action heroes? Female action heroes, sorry.
Femme fatales.
No, I think female action heroes, that's fine. But, you think of Ripley and, you think of Sarah Connor. And of course, because it's a comedy as well, maybe she doesn't have the same impact, but she's so fucking good enough. I mean, I love Frances McDormand. Speaking of the Coen brothers, if you get a chance, and it's not the Coen brothers, it's Joel Coen, but he did The Tragedy of Macbeth is on Apple TV. Now it's not going to be for everyone because it's with the original dialogue, and you kind of have to have your brain switched in just to pick it all up. But Denzel Washington's great in it. It's got an amazing cast, beautifully shot. It's this amazing thing of both being stagey and cinematic at the same time, which I think is actually quite a cinematic achievement. But Frances McDormand, and don't get me wrong, Lady Macbeth is the best character in the book, in the play. She is fantastic in it, and it's just that reminder every so often. It's just like we should have more movies with Frances McDormand. She just pops up every 4 or 5 years and just does something amazing. Like, yeah, she's the fucking best.
Three billboards.
I love that film. I love that film.
Fucking fantastic.
Oh, I need to rewatch that film. All right, so that's been 1998, The Big Lebowski. Next week, it's going to be the start of our end of the world season. So that's going to include, because we couldn't quite settle on this, disaster movies, post-apocalyptic movies, basically anything where the end of the world is happening, is about to happen, has happened previously. So a bit of a wide net, but we're going to do a 4-movie season. And the first choice is mine. I'm going for a biggie. It's another 1998 movie. You may get it already.
Waterworld.
Was that 1998? I think that was earlier than that.
Was it?
Was it
literally didn't even let you stop talking, and I was like, "You've been talking about Waterworld for years," but no,
I think
it was 95.
95? Oh,
95,
yeah, because I think The Postman was like 96. The director, you'll get it from this probably, Michael Bay.
Yeah, I just realized when you said 98, it's Armageddon, isn't it?
Yeah, it's
Armageddon.
A movie which I'm not convinced I ever loved. I just remember the big showdown against Double Impact back in the day, but it is fun.
Go back. Against what?
I said Double Impact, didn't I?
You did say Double Impact. Like, what are you going to watch? Armageddon or two Van Dams?
See, now I kind of want to watch Double Impact, but
I watched it. It was on Amazon. It was on Amazon a couple of weeks ago.
Jesus Christ.
Deep Impact, yeah.
But Armageddon is such a Michael Bay movie. It's so 90s. Again, whatever you might have to say about it, an amazing cast. And
fantastic cast.
Back in 1998, Armageddon felt like the biggest movie in the world. You know, when I think of like some of the biggest blockbusters of my lifetime, 2 of them are disaster movies. We've already covered one with Independence Day, one of the biggest movies of all time. I'd say as far as disaster movie goes, and certainly in my lifetime, the only one that comes close to that is Armageddon. It was a fucking monster when it came out. With the Aerosmith soundtrack, I have plenty to say about that. As to whether it holds up, I've not seen Armageddon for donkey's years, but I am legitimately looking forward to rewatching
this pick is going to be like this whole season is going to be very interesting because you've gone big already. Armageddon. I feel
like out the gate, I think I might go for something a bit more niche for my second choice. But I was just like, for the opening one, I was like, if we hadn't already done it, it would have been Independence Day. But as we've already covered that, I was like, Armageddon, easy choice.
Trust me, first pick for me, niche as fuck.
We'll need that, but that's what I mean. If you go big first, then you can go niche. We don't want like niche. This is a disaster movie. We need at least, I feel like we should both commit to maybe one niche movie each and one mega movie, because part of the fun with post-apocalyptic, especially disaster movies, are the scale of them. And one of the fun things is, even if the movie's shit, they can still be kind of fun unless they're called The Core, which is fucking gash.
There goes my second pick. I can tell you right now.
I would happily talk
I'm not watching The Core.
For 3 hours.
I'm not watching The Core.
That's the problem. I want to talk about The Core. I don't want to rewatch The Core. I think that's the issue.
My second pick, because I already know my niche one. My second pick is not going to be Deep Impact. I am not doing 2 space fly to the Trojan asteroid film. I can't.
No, we had to, like, basically, realistically, it was between those 2. It's like we can't do Volcano on Dante's Peak. You have to do one or t'other. So I was like, we'll naturally talk, I think, about Deep Impact when we cover Armageddon. It feels like one of those things. If you talk about Armageddon, you kind of have to talk about Deep Impact as like the alternative take on the same premise, and it's such a different movie. I like growing up, I actually really liked Deep Impact, despite the fact that I called it Double Impact at the start. But the fact is, Deep Impact is probably a better movie, but the one I want to rewatch without question is Armageddon.
Yeah, absolutely.
So that'll be loads of fun. Anything else to add before we wrap this up then?
I did have a message off one of our listeners, Richard. He messaged us and said, "Hey, dude, I'm listening to the last Action Hero podcast, and I've got 2 comments to make. The first comment about the cinema getting the film early. It's true. When I used to work in Odeon, we would literally get the blockbuster 2 weeks before they were due to premiere because we had to test the films out before we can basically show them to the people. Uh, and then he said, so he went on and said, like, so in a Sunday morning at like 6 o'clock in the morning before they've opened, they'd be watching the film. So basically, they got to see the films 2 weeks before everyone else.
That's pretty cool.
Yeah,
that's pretty cool. Old school. They bizarrely used to do that with like, I remember having like a paper giveaway. It was like with the local paper. And of all the films, it was Power Rangers the movie, and I got there were two movies I got to see 3 weeks before it finished. 3 weeks, massively. Obviously, now it'd be a big deal because of all spoilers and all that shit. But the two I got to watch super early were Power Rangers and Space Jam, of all things. But that just doesn't happen anymore. There's never going to be the metro on the way to work. I saw the ticket here to watch this movie 3 weeks before it's officially released. It's just not happening.
Right, this is going to mean nothing to anybody else who's listening. So I do apologize, obviously, because it's a podcast. What was the cinema on Queen Street? Like literally in the middle of Queen Street. Was it the ABC?
There were two. Well, it had a bunch of different names. It was the MGM is what I remember.
MGM, yeah.
There was the Odeon, which was the smaller door. And then I always remember the MGM because people would queue outside. So if it was like a big film, and it had like a bigger door at the front, so loads of people would kind of loiter around there.
So that's where I watched Space Jam and Jumanji, because I remember swimming in the Empire Pool and then going to go watch Jumanji.
It's bizarre. Whenever I think of Jumanji, I just think of Homer Simpson in The Simpsons when he's like, I've got a plan. It's the episode with Mel Gibson in it, and there's a bunch of animals running towards them. And Mel Gibson's like, we got to do this. I've got a plan. And Homer Simpson just turns around and just shouts Jumanji at them. And of course, nothing happens. I thought that was brilliant. That episode's fantastic, by the way. But yeah, I have very fond memories of going to those cinemas and the Odeon around the corner as well. In the arcade.
Second comment then from Richard. And he said, about the sequel, so he would have a sequel. It's in my opinion, I think Keanu Reeves would be a good choice. He's done enough action movies with The Matrix, John Wick, Point Break, and he's actually quite vulnerable. So I think the suggested position of being in the real world would work really well with him because he's quite vulnerable as a person and he's quite comedic. Or
you could go against, you could do similar to what like Arnie did, but play up to it more. This idea that like Keanu's actually a dickhead. So it's like he's kind of like, this whole joke is that he's building this persona like he's the nicest guy in the world, but actually what he does, he just buys really expensive stuff and he's an absolute fucking asshole to everyone. I was just like, I think that would actually be kind of good, but I'm not even sure. Is anyone ready for that? I think it's just everybody just needs to believe that Keanu's like the nicest guy
you would ruin like if Tom Hanks turned out to be some sort of fucking I don't know,
sexual predator.
Yeah, and like Keanu Reeves was just an angry person. I think the world would explode. I don't think we're ready for that, dude.
I just, I think because it's been so long, we've just kind of mentally accepted it now. But just the shock when you felt like people like, what was it? Fucking the kangaroo guy. The Australian didgeridoo fellow. No. The guy who's do all the art.
Rolf Harris.
Rolf Harris. I just couldn't remember his name. Like Rolf Harris was kangaroo. It's just because he's Australian. He was seen as one of like the most beloved characters on TV. Like he legitimately was. And then you find out he was just the fucking worst. And like him, like same with Bill Cosby. Bill Cosby was literally referred to as America's dad because he was like, I wouldn't swear on TV. Everyone loved him. He was great for the black community, all these things. And you're just like, oh no, he's a date rapist. What the fuck, Bill? Just like, don't let that be Keanu. Don't let that be like the guy we love.
I was going to say,
2025 with everything going on, that would, honest to God, I think that would break my heart more than if my wife left me. And don't get me wrong, my wife leaving me would break my heart. I think Keanu being a fucking sexual predator would be even worse.
This episode has taken a dark turn.
It really has. It really has. So, yeah. Sorry, just to agree, I think the idea for a sequel is a sound one, just to be clear.
I was trying to bring it back to that as well. I was going to say thanks, Richard, for the message. If anyone wants to send a message to us, I will clearly read them out on the podcast, and then it will lead to really random conversations.
Yeah, that's it, going a weird place pretty quick. But that's the way this podcast goes. Okay, I've been Liam, he's been Rob, and you have been listening to the Hey Guys podcast. Cheers for listening as always, guys.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.
Oh, and before I forget, where can folk reach us if they were so inclined to?
Well, you can actually reach us on Hey You Guys 80s at Facebook, Instagram, and on Twitter. But if you want to send us a mail, do heyyouguys80s@gmail.com. Send us in your recommendations. Send us in your thoughts about any of the episodes. Just literally talk to us. We'll have a one-sided talk with you on the podcast.
Yeah. We're nice folk. Get in touch. But no, cheers, guys. Bye-bye.
Cheers, guys. Bye now.